Picture this for a second. What if you started treating your standard 9-to-5 job not just as a random series of tasks, but as a literal matter of life and death strategy? Sounds intense, right? But what if you could take a legendary 17th century samurai survival guide and apply it to not just surviving, but completely dominating the modern workday? Well, in this video, we are going to do exactly that. We're cracking open Miyamoto Musashi's masterpiece, The Book of Five Rings. We're going to extract his ancient philosophy and forge it into a highly actionable daily professional checklist. Let's dive in. Here is our game plan for today. First, we'll look at the undefeated strategist himself. Second, we'll break down the way of strategy. Third, we cover his 9 principles. Fourth, we apply those to modern challenges. And finally, we'll wrap up with your daily professional checklist. All right, part 1, the undefeated strategist. Now, listen, if we're going to take professional advice from someone, we need to know they have absolute rock-solid credibility. And Musashi? The guy might honestly have the most intense resume in human history. Born in the late 16th century, he struck down his first opponent in a literal life-or-death duel when he was just 13 years old. By the time he hit 29, he had survived 60 duels, undefeated, not a single loss. But here is the absolute kicker. He later realized those early victories, they were just raw talent. He didn't actually grasp the true underlying principles of strategy until he was 50. He ended up writing the Book of Five Rings from a cave at age 60, basically distilling an entire lifetime of relentless survival into a framework for absolute victory. Moving right along to part 2, the way of strategy. So we need to establish what Musashi actually meant by strategy, because it's bigger than you might think. He writes, strategy is the craft of the warrior. The true value of sword fencing cannot be seen within the confines of sword fencing technique. See, strategy is fundamentally the craft of overcoming challenges, period. If you only look at the sword itself, you completely miss the warrior's mindset. In our modern world, if you only fixate on the spreadsheets or the code or the marketing copy, you're missing the broader strategy of career survival and growth. To bridge this gap between abstract philosophy and your actual day job, Musashi uses this brilliant, highly practical metaphor in his groundbook. He compares a military commander to a foreman carpenter. This illustrates his point perfectly. He says, the foreman carpenter allots his men work according to their ability. He should know their morale and spirit and encourage them when necessary. Think about how incredibly wild that is. A 17th century samurai literally giving out elite project management advice. A good manager doesn't force a highly creative person to do mind-numbing data entry, just like a master carpenter wouldn't use weak knotted wood for a load-bearing pillar. Right? You absolutely must utilize your team's specific strengths and protect their morale to actually build something successful. Let's move into part 3, the 9 principles. In the groundbook, Musashi lays out exactly 9 core principles for anyone who wants to learn his strategy. Let's break these down into 3 distinct themes. First up is mindset. Number 1, do not think dishonestly. Number 2, the way is in training. And 3, become acquainted with every art. In today's workplace, the way is in training translates directly to constant, never-ending upskilling. Look, if you aren't actively training, you are stagnating. There's no middle ground. You've got to treat your daily tasks as reps at the gym, repetitions that constantly hone your professional edge. Next, let's group principles 4, 5, and 6 under the theme of broader awareness. 4. Know the ways of all professions. 5. Distinguish between gain and loss. 6. Develop intuitive judgment. Pay special attention to Principle 4 here, know the ways of all professions. If you work in marketing, you better understand the daily pressures crushing the sales team, and you need to know the technical limitations of the engineering department. Understanding what other departments do helps you navigate all those complex corporate dynamics. It makes you an invaluable cross-functional asset instead of just another gear in the machine. Finally, the last 3 principles focus heavily on action. 7. Perceive those things which cannot be seen. 8. Pay attention even to trifles. 9. Do nothing which is of no use. Let's talk about number 8 for a second. Pay attention even to trifles means sweating the small stuff. We are talking about catching that tiny, seemingly harmless typo in a massive client contract, or noticing a slight weird tonal shift in your boss's voice during a pitch. Paying attention to these trifles is exactly what prevents massive project failures before they even get off the ground. Which brings us to part 4, conquering modern challenges. Let's really bridge the gap to the boardroom now. Now that we have Musashi's framework, let's use it to solve some really specific modern work problems. Principle number 9 honestly deserves its own spotlight here. Do nothing which is of no use. I mean, wow. It is incredibly simple, yet it is ruthlessly effective. This single sentence is the absolute ultimate cure for modern time-wasting, performative busy work, and those agonizing, pointless, recurring meetings we all hate. Seriously, if an action does not move you closer to victory, just discard it. Be absolutely ruthless with your calendar. Now, another massive modern challenge we face is imposter syndrome. You know that creeping, sinking feeling that you just aren't good enough to be in the room? Well, in the water book, Musashi drops this powerful insight. He says, "Today is victory over yourself of yesterday. Tomorrow is your victory over lesser men." Frame this as your ultimate go-to antidote for imposter syndrome. Listen, you do not have to be the CEO tomorrow. You don't. You just have to be slightly sharper, slightly more disciplined than the version of you that clocked in yesterday. That right there is the entire key to compounding your daily professional growth. All right, let's bring it all home with part 5, your daily professional checklist. It is officially time to turn this 17th century manual into a literal step-by-step daily checklist for your professional life. Starting in the morning, your focus is distinguish gain and loss. Your modern action, look at your to-do list and ruthlessly prioritize high-impact tasks over easy, busy work. Then at midday, your focus shifts to pay attention to trifles. Your modern action, meticulously review your project details and catch those small errors in your emails before you hit send. Finally, in the evening, apply do nothing of no use. Your modern action, audit your calendar for the very next day and decline or at least consolidate any absolutely useless meetings. And hey, when it comes to navigating tricky office politics and actually positioning yourself for a promotion, just strictly apply these 3 steps. Step 1, perceive those things which cannot be seen. Basically, read the room, understand the unwritten rules and those unspoken power dynamics flying around your office. Step 2, know the ways of all professions. Don't let yourself get siloed in your own department. Collaborate cross-functionally and genuinely learn the language of the other teams. Step 3, the way is in training. Never ever rest on your laurels. Block out dedicated time on your calendar to learn a new skill that makes you objectively more valuable. Now, as you start to integrate this into your daily workflow, you have to remember something crucial. Adopting this strategic, hyper-focused mindset is a long-term discipline. Musashi writes, "Step by step, walk the 1,000-mile road." You know, you aren't going to magically become a master strategist by next Tuesday. It takes incredibly patient daily practice. You have to start treating every single email, every meeting, and every project as a repetition in your training. I want to leave you with a final, really powerful thought drawn straight from Book of Water. He teaches that water naturally adapts to the exact shape of its receptacle. Sometimes it's just a quiet trickle. Sometimes it's a raging wild sea, but it always maintains its clear, true nature. So I have to ask you, in a modern world of constant corporate chaos, shifting deadlines and overflowing inboxes, is your spirit like water? Can you remain calm, adaptable, and ruthlessly focused on the strategy of winning? Take Musashi's principles, apply them to your checklist tomorrow morning, and start walking your 1,000-mile road.